in the front room here. This is the drum off series, Kickin' at Kubic's crib. We have Terry Boylan in, and I want to thank him. We've only met a couple times at gigs because you play with the Nomad Planet Orchestra. I know you're going to hate when I say that, but I just have to say that.
Talk about the Nomads. Love those boys.
I met you at a couple gigs, so I know you're a New Yorker, and you're Bronx, right, is where you were born. Yep. Is that near Tarrytown?
Tarrytown's a little farther up the river.
Right, because you know the bridge up there.
Yeah, Tappan Zee.
Tappan Zee. They blew it up the other day.
No way, because they're doing a new one, or
they built the new one already, and I didn't know anything about it. I don't mean, I know a lot of people don't give a shit about this, but I care about it.
This is New York.
Because I used to have to go upstate, and I'd always take that. You know, you take the Deegan up there or whatever, and I can't remember it all. But
when you were camping at Bear Mountain, right?
Right. Yeah. I wonder what the toll is on that. Probably like $47 each way.
It's got to be ridiculous. Yeah.
New York. So, did you ever live in New York City?
Yeah. Lived on Upper East Side, 81st, between 1st and 2nd. Kind of near Gracie Mansion.
Yeah.
Where the old mayor lives.
Because that's 96th, right? 90,
I think so.
Somewhere around there.
And lived in the Village.
So you were not far from the famous bar, Elaine's. You were not far from Elaine's.
Oh.
Elaine's was on.
I probably was, but had no idea at the time.
Yeah, I think I went in there once. It was fucking boring. We'd like to thank Yingling Lager. I like the lager beer because I always think it says larger.
Oh, but speaking of New York, so the reason I played drums is my dad was a drummer during the big band days, and he knew Gene Krupa. So I had 3 older brothers, and my dad was like, "Oh, one of my kids has to follow in my footsteps." One by one, he took, the oldest, next one, and,
you stink.
Right, they didn't care, So he goes, "Terry,
it's up to you.
You're me only hope. Come on." So he goes, "I'm going to take."
Is he Irish? Did he have the Irish brogue like "You're me only hope"?
Yeah.
Fancy, take the boys and surround the house.
Oh, we're Irish Catholic on both sides.
Oh man.
Growing up was rough.
I noticed you were still crossing yourself when you were playing like before you started every set.
Help me, Jesus.
So, did you ever meet Gene?
Yeah, so that was the ritual. He would take the kids to meet Gene. And Gene Krupa was the nicest, totally humble, just a wonderful man.
You know he's a South Side of Chicago.
No, I thought he was a New Yorker.
Born and raised south side of Chicago, and he's buried in Calumet City.
Get out of here.
Holy Cross Cemetery. I'll send you the link. They got that's where my family.
Can anybody go?
Yeah, you could go.
I have to go.
Yeah, there's a pair of drumsticks on his
how cool
headstone.
Is that? So my dad took me to his house. He had a beautiful house.
Where did he live?
In Yonkers, in a place called Park Hill, a lot of
highfalutin.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful old turn of the century brick and limestone type houses. And he had his classic white marine pearl with the GK bass drum deal set up in his basement, and he was, nice.
Cool. How old were you when you did this?
11-ish. Maybe 12. Maybe
you were
12.
Lucky.
Oh man, and that was right about the time. I don't know, that I was starting to go, ooh, music, because my dad was always playing music around the house. Usually big band stuff.
What did your father play?
Drums.
Oh, drums.
Yeah. So there was a drum kit.
I wasn't listening earlier.
So, there I am, and here's Gene Krupa. He sits down and plays.
No, he did a set for you?
Yes, and I'm just like.
Did you get behind his kid at all?
He took me over and said, "Sit down," and I'm like, "Well, I've never."
Did you realize who he was at that time? Did you
kind of, but not really.
That was one of my first influences was Gene Krupa. Cool. When I was young, I started playing young when I was 8 years old.
I saw the big noise from
that was a gift from one of my radio listeners, Francis. I'd like to thank him for that. Gene Krupa was on TV, one of those movies he was in, playing like, I don't know, he's playing like Caravan or something like that. Right. And my dad goes, "Yo, check this out," because I was playing piano. He goes,
"Wow,
no fruity tooty here. This guy's nailing it." And that's when I started kicking the cans a bit. So we have a little connection. So
yes. As I grew up later in years, I went, "Holy shit, Gene Krupa." Thanks.
That's a great story. How old are you?
Just turned 69.
69. Jesus. You look like you're 50-something.
Oh, I love you, brother.
Dude, I'm 61, and I'm feeling like really crap these days.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Great
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
Jeez. Hope I like that good. I got to start working out. Do you work out?
Yeah, and green smoothies.
Well, I am a bit health conscious. It's not like I go running or anything like that, but the drumming is kind of exercise in itself.
Especially double bass. I mean, it's like...
I was surprised you brought the double kick, because I thought you were a single kick guy, and then he walks in, he's like, I go, what's the big suitcase? It's like his bag of tricks, but so I had to pull out the old double kick, so I try and incorporate it.
You had some nice little groups, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. You had nice ones too. So, but I thank him for coming in. It's an honor to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
So unbelievable, Krupa.
And kudos to you for doing this.
Pshaw.
Northwest Indiana, I mean, I've been lucky to travel all over the world playing music, and there are so many talented people right here in our neck of the woods.
Tons of them.
Blows my mind, and I've been fortunate enough. I moved from L.A. here in 1984, and I've played with tons of guys, you know, here, and I mean, they're all top shelf dudes.
So you went from being raised in Bronx, Yonkers type area, right? Didn't you move up to Yonkers, you said, or? So
my dad, you know, eventually, you know, kept having more and more kids, and he went, music's not putting the food on the table. So he was a pretty inventive guy, walked into a bank one day and said, you know, you need to hire me because I'm a personable guy. And he wound up, when he retired, he was one of the VPs of the bank in New York, you know. So hence we moved farther up the Hudson River, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving uptown, sort of.
Moving uptown.
Way uptown.
Yeah, way uptown.
So you went from New York to L.A., and then when you were leaving L.A., you went on a map and you went, Munster, Indiana.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Or Chicago.
I was in a traveling band. It was actually a Holiday Inn show band. And it was a really good one, even though I hated doing it, because at the time I just wanted to be a rock and roll star.
But some of those guys make money. There's a solid gig.
We were making serious money, you know, and they put you up. You know, and
feed and drink you and all that.
Yeah, and I was 23, 24. I mean, I had nothing holding me. So we traveled all over. We started making our way up towards Chicago. And they go, hey, we have a gig for you in Portage, Indiana. It's the month of June. You'll be by the lakeside. It's beautiful. And we're like, hey, cool, I'm game.
You'll be by the lakeside next to the big mercury pit and the big mill.
Yeah. Come check out the toxins. Yeah. You know? So I'm playing a gig. You know, we do a dance set. And we had a girl singer who was really phenomenal. Played piano, beautiful. So we're doing the dance set. And, you know, sometimes you kind of space out a little bit. And I'm looking out and all of a sudden I go, oh my God, the most beautiful woman in the world is on the dance floor. And the golden white God light comes down like a halo on this woman. And I go, the search is over. You will be mine. And as soon as I couldn't wait for that set to be over, because I just went, I have to see if I have a chance.
What was your first line? Do you remember? How do you like me so far? Did you hear that Charlie Rich song? Hey, did you happen to see the most beautiful girl in the world?
We probably played that song that night.
So what year was that?
1975.
Oh, wow. All right. So, yeah, I was around here. I was beating around here in 75 still.
And I did wind up marrying that girl, and now 42 years later, still married to her.
Did that band continue on, or did you just plant?
That actually turned into an original band, and we played around Chicago.
They were Chicago-based?
No, we were all from L.A. So we wound up moving to Chicago for maybe a year, and then we went, okay, time to go back to L.A. So my wife went back with me to L.A.
How did she like L.A.?
She loved it.
So you went back to L.A., and how long were you there?
Almost 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah, and moved back here in 84.
So you started playing drums early on, and already had moved out. What was one of your first bands?
Terry and the Pirates.
It was the 60s. Terry and the Pirates. What was your best gig with Terry and the Pirates?
We played at Yankee Stadium.
Look at this guy. Gene Krupa, Yankee Stadium. What was it for?
I can't even remember. But it was filmed, and what I'd give to see a film of that. The main attraction
around somewhere.
Was a band called Love Special Delivery, LSD. This is the 60s.
Yeah,
man,
right.
Crazy.
Your dad's like, what is that LSD stuff? I can't do the Irish.
He came with me because, I'm proud of me, boy. He's at the stadium now,
He's playing the stadium, playing with LSD. So you went on to some other bands because you actually got involved with a band in the 90s, I think it was, that was kind of on the verge of getting signed, all that whole bit. And tell us a little bit about that.
Big Guitars from Memphis.
I've never seen you guys, but I've heard that name.
Oh, it was a killer band. We were a live band. I mean, we made good records, but live, that was our forte. John Ivan from Off-Broadway. John Pasden was the bass player in Off-Broadway. They'd been around the block. They knew the deal.
Big Guitars from Memphis. How'd you come up with that name? I love that name.
They had it. They already had it kind of going. It was in its infancy, but they were having trouble. They really wanted a drummer who could play country. And it was a country band, but we approached it as rock and rollers. We looked like rock and rollers and, played hard edge. But they didn't want a rock drummer, and that's who they had. And they went, we got to have that link. I had never played country till I moved here. The whole theme was, the Memphis sound. Carl Perkins, Elvis, Johnny Cash.
That little rockabilly flair, too.
Twang of big guitars, that kind of thing.
So how many pieces were in that band?
We were a trio with a singer.
So Big Guitars from Memphis went on and got signed with
SBK Records.
SBK.
We were signed out of the Nashville division because they took care of all the country guys. And at that time, Billy Dean, Mark Chestnut, for all you country folks, they were the top dogs at that time. So that was a great label. And on their pop side, it was Wilson Phillips, Jesus Jones.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was a pretty happening label.
And what happened with that? Again, this is another story that we hear so often.
Where it just, you got it in your hands and it just, no matter what, you can't hold on to it.
Sign this contract. Where the money at? So it fell apart. What, you did some touring? You did 7 albums?
Yeah, we did 7 CDs.
Not on SBK, though.
No, never ever wound up doing one because by the time we signed, got the publishing deal and everything, and we thought, okay, here we are. And then that's when they started meddling, and we just went, oh my God, we got rid of our singer, had other guys come in. Anyway, so we did wind up getting back with our singer, but by then, things were weird. I was tired. So I wound up moving to Nashville, to be a session cat. Me and a million other people waiting in the bushes trying to get in, But because of Big Guitars from Memphis, we had a great reputation. And the guy who discovered us and signed us, a guy named Michael Henderson, a serious songwriter, plays in bands. He's on tons of records. He was there and he's like, hey, I'm going to take you under my wing. I'm going to get you in. I got sessions. Got hooked up with a girl. Do you know who Emmylou Harris is?
Yes,
okay.
I do. Yeah.
Emmylou's husband, Brian Ahern, was a record producer. He did Emmylou and everybody else. Mm-hmm. He discovers this girl named Terry Radigan. Beautiful, beautiful Irish Catholic from Brooklyn. And can sing her ass off. Great songwriter, killer songwriter. Brian Ahern discovers her and he goes, this is the next Emmylou Harris. He has the top names, top guitar players, bass players, drummers play, in his studio, they do a spec album, and Emmylou was on Arista Records, so he takes it to Arista and says, I'm delivering the new Emmylou Harris. You're going to sell millions of records. And here we go with the record company. They didn't know what to do.
They didn't know what to do.
They went, oh, we get it, but they just fumbled the ball. We were on the tour bus, did some shows, and it's like, and I just went, I beat the thing. Guys go to Nashville and they wait for years to get their first thing. But because of Big Guitar's reputation, it was like, boom, you're right in, man. And I was like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. And
slipped through again.
Just slipped through. And I went, I'm going home. When my father-in-law finds the want ad, top 40 drummer, I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know country music, So I call the guy up, the leader of the band. It was called John Kuiper and the County Line Band, a very well-known band around the area. He was from Lowell. So I call him up, I say, hey, I just moved here from L.A. I've done lots of studio work. I've played lots of different bands, and I'm thinking, well, I can't just BS him and say, oh yeah, and I know all the country stuff. Hire me. So I thought, well, I got to be honest. I said, well, I'm not that familiar with country, but I, pick up things really, really quick, So he said, so he's interviewing me, and he goes, oh, well, do you know Alabama or whatever band was around, And no,
it's a nice state.
I really don't know. And then he asked me another band, well, do you know any of these guys' songs? I'm like, oh, no, And I'm thinking, I'm going to talk myself right out of this gig, Mm-hmm. So he asks another one, and I go, just say you do. And I go, no, chump, so it's the devil,
come on, Dad,
going,
lie.
Say anything, get the gig, man, you'll do fine, they're gonna love you, And the other guy going, you chump, you can't lie, come on, man up.
It's gonna catch up to you,
right? Just don't ever do it, So the third time I go, well. Yeah. I think I heard that song on the radio. Yeah. And he goes, okay. He goes, well, I like your attitude. And he goes, okay, let me ask you this. Do you know anything about Lowell? And I thought, I can't say no. I'm going to say, yeah. I love that band. Lowell.
Oh, that's the band?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, I thought it meant Lowell, Indiana, I thought.
Well, that's the punchline. So the guy goes, just say yes. Say, yeah, I know all their songs. And I go, no, I can't lie. And I go, no, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that band either. And he bursts into laughter and he goes, no, Lowell, that's where we live. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus, for telling me to keep it straight. That
would have been embarrassing.
So I went down to the club that weekend. I walk in, and I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I go, whoa, this is a country bumpkin place here, man. And they were on break, and they were just getting ready to go on, and they go on, and I went, oh, these cats are fabulous. He is like one of the greatest singers, he's a country singer. Tone for days, and a handsome guy, great stage presence, and the band was great. So I went up, played 3 songs, and they went, okay, you're in.
So Terry's with Nomad Planets, and how did you link up with them?
When I was with Big Guitars from Memphis, John Carpenter was in a band called Urban Twang, and they were playing the same Chicago circuit. And
I did not know that.
a couple of years later, speaking of your old friend Eric Lambert was recording a CD at Thunderclap Studios, and Eric had asked for me, so I went in, and then that's, and it was like, hey, John, yeah, and then he said, hey, how would you like to be the house drummer? And I went, oh. So I did that, and then years later, their drummer had...
Nomad Planets, because I remember I met their first drummer. I can't remember his name.
Drew Enselman. Great drummer, great guy, and had a serious,
medical issue or something.
Yeah, medical issue. So he wasn't able to rehearse, wasn't able to make the recording. So they said, hey, can we just pay you to be the studio drummer and finish our CD? And I said, yeah, I'd be thrilled to.
Cash only.
Yeah.
Nomad Planets is a great band too, and I have to say hi to Tim Creighton, because he claims that he's your friend.
Tim Creighton is my buddy.
Okay, I was just curious because I sent him a message today. I said, who's coming in today? He's like, oh, say hi to him. He's my friend. I go, you're sure? I'm going to say something. He's going to badmouth you. The guy's a lousy bum. That's what I thought you'd say.
Do you know Jerry Clemens?
Yes.
And I've been playing with Jerry Clemens for years in Nick Danger, which is a great band, and it's turned into almost like a musical chairs band, where he's got, 4 or 5 drummers, guitar players, singers.
It's like a revolving door.
Yeah, it's like the Forrest Gump thing, the box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, gamble chocolate.
But it's going to be good, man. It's going to be good. And I've had a ball playing with them. So I've been a lucky guy. Played with Nelson Wynn, who owns Broadway Music, in the original Hazard County band.
Oh, I remember that. Hazard County, too.
So I was lucky to play. Thank you. That I played with all these cats in Northwest Indiana.
I can't get a gig.
Well, I pay them. It's the old LA days. You got to pay to play.
Oh, yeah. You got to
remember that? A quick LA story. I played the Whiskey, but across the street, catty-cornered, is a place called Filthy McNasty's. Kind of a seedy bar, but, right on Sunset Strip. So I was playing in there in a band, and this would have been, late 70s maybe, so everybody had to have a gong, and I had a huge 4-foot gong behind me, and we're, playing away, we're an original band, metal.
Yeah.
And
hair flips and all that.
Yes. And I hear somebody in the audience with this crazy laugh, and I go, not only that's just not a crazy laugh, that's a famous laugh, and I look, and all of a sudden this woman comes out, and it's Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis? Of course I remember Phyllis Diller. I love Phyllis Diller.
So she walks right in and he goes,
What the hell was she doing?
And she's pointing at me, and she goes, and I go, yeah, come on, baby. So she walks up, and we're in the middle of playing a song, and she's yelling in my ear, she goes, I want to bang your gong. I want to bang your gong. And I'm like, Phyllis, you can do anything you want.
You did have a gig with someone famous, super famous, though. I saw a picture of you.
I played drums for Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry. So this was in Chicago?
at the Chicago Stadium in 1986. Are you a basketball fan?
Not really, but I know the
But
Bulls.
Michael Jordan had broken an ankle or a foot, so
hoof.
Basketball people would go, "Oh, that was 1986, of course, when he broke his whatever."
Right? Yeah, 1986. That's right. Yeah, spot on. Right.
So got to play with Chuck Berry, and he would just go from town to town, and the agency that booked him,
get a backing band.
Yeah, just says, get the best band in Chicago. And I was with a band called, oddly enough, Mike Jordan and the Rock-O-Matics, and he was like the king of Lincoln Avenue in the mid '80s. So we got the gig with Chuck Berry. We're sitting in our dressing room, and Chuck Berry comes in, and I mean, to me, I was like, I died and went to heaven. I mean, I grew up on Chuck Berry, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, 50s music. And now here he is in the flesh, and he goes, "Who's the drummer man?"
Oh, he said that to you?
And I go, "Well, that's me, Mr. Berry, sir." And he goes, "Here's all you need to know. When we're playing, and you see me lift my leg, know that we're getting ready to stop. And when I put my leg down, that's when you stop, even if you don't think it's where you're supposed to stop. Got it? I lifts my leg, I puts my leg down." And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of odd, because, how can you miss da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? But oddly enough, we're sitting there playing, and I go, "Oh, shit. He's lifting his leg. This isn't the right spot. It can't be. And then, sure enough, when he put it down, it was like, whoa, the right spot.
How funny.
Oh, it was killer.
How funny.
Killer.
I saw Jerry Lee Lewis once, and he was doing the same thing. He would tour with a guitarist as a musical director, and they would hire local cats to play for backline. And they had a drummer. I guess he was kind of a rock guy. And he's playing Ball of Fire, Great Balls of Fire. It's all straight 4 on the floor, the bass drum. And this guy's going like that.
Oh.
Jerry stops. He goes, "What are you?" I mean, he totally embarrassed him. And this is at the Ritz in New York City.
Oh, man.
He says, "Just play 4 on the floor." Oh, we got to do Animal. Drums. Terry, thank you so much for coming in.
And kudos to you, man. This is the coolest thing. This needs to become a nightclub. Your little studio here is the coolest vibe. You're the cat's meow.
Thank you so much.
The fact that you bring drummers in and we're doing all this.
For coming on the show, you have a choice of gifts here. So you could either get the We Built This City box set, which has 74 versions of We Built This City, mixes and outtakes. It has an extended play version, a dance version, and my favorite, the dog whistle, silent whistle version. The band members, photographs of the band members' blouse choices, all the rayons and all the necessary fabrics, pictures, photos of all their perms through the years. interviews with the band of how you wrote the most annoying song in the world, things of that sort. So you have that, or you could get the Walter Brennan box set.
Oh, dude.
And the Walter Brennan box set includes Walter's hat photos, the real McCoyisms, Appalachian Jugs, which is everybody's favorite. And you could learn the Amos McCoy strut. So it's your choice.
You don't even have to sell me on Walter Brennan.
It's been
Walter Brennan, I mean, he is the biggest character in the world. I grew up watching the real McCoys. And one of his most famous lines, I think there was a son and a daughter on the McCoys, and the girl got uppity. She went off to college or something, and she was having trouble, and Walter Brennan had to, maybe go give her a talk, and he referred to her as, well, now you're thinking you're the Queen of Sheby. the Queen of Sheby. I just about
That's improv.
pissed my pants, man. So, Walter Brennan
box set. Terry, thank you so much.
Thank you,
If
sir.
you're in town, in and around the region, look out for Nomad Planets. They gig a lot. They do the festival circuit and all that, and other clubs in and around.
And Nick Danger.
Nick Danger, yes, very dangerous indeed. Dangerous, but in a safe way. Terry, thank you so much. We'll see you next time right here at Drum Off Series in the front room, right here, kicking at a Kubic's crib. Take care.